Well, hi there, Brad. So good to see you.
Very good to
I'd
see you as well.
yeah, I'd love if you could please introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Sure. So I'm Brad Stedman. I am functionally within what we call the program management space. I've done program management for both hardware and software within the high tech industry.
Okay. And what was going on when we met? Like, how did you end up deciding to work with us?
Yeah. So I knew last year in 2023 that I needed to make a move. I felt a little bit unsupported in the role that I had. And I thought that the opportunities where I was working weren't going to manifest. So I wanted to leave that company and move to something bigger, better, and something growing. So I reached out to you. I think, well, actually, I think the way you and I originally got connected is you pinged me on LinkedIn. It was good timing. Like your timing was perfect because I'm like, I am actually in the market. This is great. And we connected then. And I think we kicked off in January, right after the holidays. And that's when I revamped everything that based the resume, the LinkedIn profile, all of those pieces following your blocks of instruction. And at that time, I still was working for my former employer. And then as things kind of progressed and that employer was doing more and more workforce reductions, I was like, let's see where this goes. And sure enough, me and my entire department were put on a workforce reduction. So I left that company at the end of April and have been really, searching all year, even since January. So that then gave me actually a lot more free time to pursue in deliberately, like let's go after the next role. So that's what's been going on with me.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit more about your job search? Like, what did you find worked well for you? What elements of the program helped you the most?
So the biggest pieces that helped me was the rewriting the resume and doing the massive update to my LinkedIn profile. So like even the simplest thing of like changing my header to something more visually appealing and putting in the keywords for the searches, the things that the skills that I'm good at. So I think the upfront, I'll call it the packaging piece, because I know you're a consumer package person, right? That product. So me as the product, it was packaging that product in an appealing format. That was the best part of our engagement. And that gave me the pieces really to go to market with. The cover letter template was great. I created a very sort of universal cover letter that I could literally edit for the next role I was applying for within like 5 to 7 minutes and submit it, and I got that down pretty pat. And so that was, then it was just for me, it was applying, it was using my network. I have a pretty extensive network, friends all over high tech, and letting them know I'm searching and looking for a new role, and this is what I was looking for. And those were the pieces of your program that I thought was fantastic.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'd love if you could share also what you had shared with me about that extra step that you took with your network when you were applying to roles versus just having them maybe um, right. Like, yeah, I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yeah, I will say that when you're tapping into your network and you're like specifically like there's a role that's open, you can apply for it on that company website, and you have a friend that works there or a former colleague. For one thing, don't be shy, right? People, there's that old saying that people will forget what you did or what you said, but you'll never forget how you made them feel. You never know how good like of an impression you left on someone. So reach out to them. And I did that a lot. I was reaching out to folks, and there's an interesting interplay there in the sense that in some companies that are hiring, it's better for your friend to refer you in there, and in others, it's like, no, you need to apply first, and then they can boost your application. So that's one thing to ask right off the bat is like, does it work best at your company that you refer me? I send you my resume and you put me in the system, or that I just go ahead and apply myself. That's one thing to decipher. The second thing is hiring has become extremely, extremely difficult in terms of like the pool of candidates. So you need to make it as personal as you can. And what I did in that case is is don't just, I've asked my friends, don't just refer me. Can you give me the email address of the hiring manager? If you can't do that, can I write a letter send to you that you will forward to that hiring manager? Can you book a one-on-one with that hiring manager and advocate for me? Can you email them on my behalf? Can you leave them a voicemail? You've got to somehow get that person who's already working there at that firm or has the connections that you need to leverage to get it to be personal, to have that that real major contact. Because if not, if they just refer you in the system with their keyboard and they hit return and submit and then they go off and do their job, you're still within that applicant tracking system. It's all digital at that point. And I don't think that there's any hiring manager out there that's saying, hey, here's all the resumes that have a referral tied to it, and here's everybody else digitally, right? It's going to take personal effort. So this is one of the biggest things that I learned was having that courage, if you will, to ask, would you mind emailing them for me? Would you mind if I send you this letter, would you forward it to them? Would you please leave a voicemail for me advocating for me? Would you please, email them yourself? Would you call them? All those things, ask for that because you're not going to get differentiated if you don't.
I love that you shared that. I love that you did that. And a lot, I can hear the people in my head that are feeling uncomfortable about doing that. Like, how did you find the response on the other side?
Yeah, that's what's really interesting is the response varies based on the medium. So, for example, if you're just using LinkedIn and you don't have that person's cell phone number, a lot of people don't actually use LinkedIn or check LinkedIn or monitor their LinkedIn. So there's time lags, and those time lags are going to ruin your chances of getting even screened in because they're going to open those recs for a short period of time. So, but if you have their cell phone number, that's key, right? You text them, call them. So I guess the biggest thing for getting over that hesitancy to reach out is, I'll tell you, if you have their cell phone number, you had it for a reason. Text them out of the blue. Hey, this is Brad Stebbin. Hope you remember me from our time together in semiconductor. And I'm actually in the market for a new role. I see something at the firm you're at. When could I call you? Can we connect again? Because you're just blast the past, right? When can we reconnect? So I think that I know people are worried about being a bother to others, but I mean, you have to advocate for yourself first, then they will advocate for you second. But they're not going to advocate for you first. That's your job.
So true, right? And in this market, especially in tech, going that extra mile on some of those elements can really make a difference because there's so many people in market looking for new roles with all the layoffs, with even people that are still employed are still impacted by the layoffs. They're being asked to do more, right, and not being paid
Absolutely.
more. So there's just a lot of people looking for new roles. So taking those extra steps can make such a big difference. Um,
Absolutely.
and I'd love if you could share more about the role that you ended up landing. Congratulations, by
Yeah.
the way.
Thank you. So I'm still in program management. My background tends to be, more into the data center side of things. So any kind of high tech stuff that's going inside a data center, which is normally integrated racks of servers. And that's exactly what this role is. And I was at the director level, and this is a senior principal individual contributor level program management role. So, it's a step or two down, and that's okay for me because candidly, my most fun I had at my prior employer was my first 7 years there when I took a step out of management and I was an individual program manager. And what's great about program management is you get to exercise leadership without having to do the management side of it. Like you're not responsible for writing more than your own performance review. You're not responsible if people are having some, um, problems at home, a medical emergency, and they've got to take time off, and you're dealing with all of the normal, family medical leave act stuff. Like there's a lot of management obligations that I didn't have to do for those first 7 years. And looking at this role, I'm like going, that might be a nice break. Like I literally have been in management most of my career. When did I have the most fun? When I wasn't in management. So why not? So why not take it? And and honestly, like I said a moment ago, I see this as sort of a springboard, right? I'm diving into the trampoline, and it's gonna deflect downward to this role that I'm in. But then I think it's gonna spring me upward. It gets me into a firm that is a well recognized brand, and they're growing, and they are they profess to me, at least through all the interviews, that they're very motivated to move their talent around and give their talent as much opportunity to grow and expand themselves in different roles. So yeah, I mean, whatever the minimum requirement is, maybe I have to be in this role for 18 to 24 months. Okay, sounds like fun.
Yeah. Well, I have no doubt that you're going to do really well. Are you able to share the company that you're going to?
Yeah, so I'm moving to Oracle, a well-known company. They predominantly known for doing enterprise resource planning software. They have an Oracle Cloud that they're offering, which I think may actually be on par, at least from a competitive standpoint, with like Google Cloud or Amazon Cloud. We'll see. I don't know enough about the company to say, oh yeah, that's where they're targeting. But I am going to go into the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Group, and that excites me because that's what I was doing when I was having the time of my life at Dell. So
Nice. Anything else that you want people to know, either about the program, the work that we did together, or job search success, especially right now with tech?
yeah, I think the big aha moment for me happened toward the end, and hopefully the listeners of this will apply it earlier in their job search, and that is, I know we're always trying to drive or go for that new thing or a higher role or something much more, maybe even different than what we're doing. I would advise your clientele to really look at what they're deep at. In other words, what are they, if someone said, all right, you're an expert at what, Danielle? Tell me the one thing you're an expert at. I would say to your customers, look at yourself in that light and really promote that, because in high tech, especially where I'm at, they're looking for some deep expertise, because they're looking for someone who's going to come in and either raise the bar or come in and immediately add value to something that they're suffering from. So, you know, I, in my particular example, going to the marketplace as program management actually isn't as solid as going to the marketplace as I'm an expert in rack scale infrastructure. That they're like, oh, okay. Well, let's look a little deeper at this guy's resume or this guy's LinkedIn profile. So that's the advice I would give people: is if you want to do something new and different, do that when you already look for that when you already have a job. If you don't have a job and you're looking for one, rely on what you're deeply, deeply knowledgeable of, and go to market as I am the grand poobah of this function or this expertise. This is what I know really well, and if you bring me on board, I'll immediately add value in this space. And I think in that regard, that's a good way to get in the door. Then you can figure out, how do I change this new thing I was hoping to get? Do that as a second step.
Yeah, that's such great advice. Really appreciate that. And I appreciate the referrals as well, Brad.
Yes, of course,
Yes.
of course. I hope they keep rolling in. You have a very good program. I've been approached by a lot of other recruiters because they see that, especially when you change your circle to looking for work, you get pinged a lot, and they all offer different pieces of it. Much of them that were approaching me were more franchise opportunities, but I do like I do like the way that you have all the videos, and I can on demand go in there and say, okay, I'm entering negotiation phase. Let me go. I know I watched this thing months ago. Let me go rewatch it again and refresh and take notes. So I would use all your tool sets for things like that. It was great.
Nice. Well, I'm so excited for you. Can't wait to see what happens with your new position, with your career progression with Oracle. And thank you so much for sharing your story.
You're welcome. I hope it helps those that are listening to it.
I'm sure it will.